This conference will now be recorded.
Everybody can hear me?
Yes, we can. Take it away, Mike.
Okay, welcome to our People First Presents Your Voice Counts. It's a forum of topics of voting and completing the US Census. I just want to say welcome to our show. I am Mike Stanford. I'm the president of People First. And now it's going to be the opening of our members of People First and their introductions.
Hello, my name is Kim Paxton.
So
Yes, most of
Virginia Newsom is not with us tonight, so we'll go ahead and go to the next person.
My name is Melissa Pizzato.
My name is Chris Donald.
My name is Ann Schooley.
And also April Watson is not here with us tonight. So we'll go to Dennis.
My name is Dennis Muller.
Very good. And Mark Foster is not with us, but we do have Christy Merrill here. So Christy, would you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Christy Merrill.
Awesome. Very good.
Okay, now it's the members going to read off some statements about our mission of People First to inspire to educate. And
The mission, the people first, is inspired education to others.
Train for information, support people to use for your voice.
We are education first inspired
Inclusion.
children.
All right. Mike, would you do April's?
sure, well, we are advocates for disability rights.
We're advocates for creating a more welcome and inclusive society.
Okay, please welcome Joan Calicott of Voting Rights and Responsibilities.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces here. Thank you for having me tonight. I can remember the basketball game that you had at the community center. I think it probably was last fall already, but you were all having a good time and I certainly enjoyed it too. So thank you for participating so involved. And I think your mission statements are just great. I really admire that you're able to develop those and live by them. That's important. Well, I am here tonight, and I thank Emily for inviting me to talk a little bit about a big thing going on this year, and it is the general election on November 3rd. A little bit of history for you. The Constitution, which was actually adopted in 1789, that's even before I was born, okay? So it's a long time ago. And the first article and the second thing in the first article indicated who was able to vote for their representatives. And this at that time was just members of the House of Representatives. As you know, there are two houses of Congress, representatives and the Senate. And it was very restricted to really just men who own property. So as time went on, amendments were adopted. In, let's see, in 1870, the 15th Amendment adopted suffrage for Black people. And a suffrage means the right to vote, okay, the ability to be able to cast your ballot in an election. Then the 19th Amendment in August of 1920 was a women's suffrage. And you probably, how many of you have seen programs on the 100th anniversary of the women's suffrage this year? It was quite a bit going on, especially on public television. They had some programs. Great, Melissa, thank you. I'm glad you were able to see that. So we have now everybody, every citizen who's 18 years of age or more is eligible to vote. Okay, so every citizen has responsibility to get to the vote, to be registered for it, and to actually get to the polls one way or another. And we'll talk about the different ways that you're able to cast your vote this year. As was mentioned, I am with the Bowling Green chapter of the League of Women Voters, which is a national organization. And just as with the 19th Amendment, we started in 1920. So we also are celebrating our 100th anniversary this year. And there's a lot that we're looking at too and enjoying it. I would just like to say for 100 years, the League has been a nonpartisan activist grassroots. That means all of the citizens, an organization that believes voters should play a critical role in democracy. And the League of Women Voters works to help voters become informed on the electoral process, as well as on the candidates and the issues that are on a ballot. So elections for every political position are voted by the citizens. And it is important for all of us to be involved. And we all equal at the ballot box, one person, one vote. But we all need to cast that vote. And as I mentioned, every citizen age of 18 or over, regardless of your ethnic background, your race, your sex, is able to vote. It's an opportunity to vote and be part of this democracy. Now, having this vote is a privilege, but it's also a responsibility. And I'd just like to move on a little bit about what kind of assistance is available in voting. I am so pleased that Emily and her staff have created what they call a voting plan. And it's a step-by-step program on how for you and us to be prepared when we get to cast our ballot, because we want to know what we want to vote for before we get to the poll. And this plan is one that I think will be of great assistance to you all. If it looks like you are all very physically active and everything, but if there is somebody that you know that is unable to write for themselves, if they have a physical impairment that they can't write, they are able to adapt to have someone else help them with marking their ballots. So that form to do that is available through the Board of Elections, and that's in the Wood County Courthouse. And the Board of Elections is a wonderful, wonderful organization of government that really helps all the citizens to cast their ballots. So you can have that kind of assistance if needed. Let me see what else I wanted to say. Oh, again, many of you obviously are on a computer, so you're computer literate, and you can go to voteohio.gov, and you can do a lot of things at that website and find a lot of information. And that actually, once you put in your address, even to your zip code, I believe, it can take you right directly to the Wood County Board of Elections. Every county in the state of Ohio has its own Board of Elections. And I think our Wood County Board of Elections is probably one of the best. So we are very fortunate to have them working on our behalf. One of the first things that you need to know, well, first of all, can I see a show of hands of those of you who may have voted already in the past? Okay, good. So you're familiar with the process. Great. Yeah, thanks. This year, again, because of the COVID-19 issues, we have a lot of additional concerns about getting everyone to cast their vote and to feel confident about it. So the first thing is to be sure that you're registered. Now, how many of you have received absentee ballot application from the Secretary of State? Okay, that's a good indication that you are definitely registered, so that's good. If you have not received it, I suggest you go to that voteohio.gov and put in your information, your name and your address is basically, and your date of birth, and you will be guided to the website to see if you are registered or not. If you are newly registering for the first time, you can do that online if you have a driver's license. If you have a driver's license, then you can do it right online. If you do not have a driver's license, you will need to complete the form that is available for registering to vote. And that requires your name, your date of birth, your address, your current address where you are living, and your social security number. Now, if for some reason you don't have a social security number, you can provide a copy of a recent bank statement or perhaps a pay stub or something that has your current address on it. And you would carefully complete the registration form with the information they ask for, sign it, and you can either mail it directly to the Secretary of State. If you have the official registration form, you can fold it, close it with some tape, and the address is on there. So you just need to put postage on, just be sure you have the right postage on it. Or you can take it over to the Wood County Courthouse. The Board of Elections has a drop box right outside their main entrance at the back. How many of you been to the courthouse? Okay, so you know where that is. And now I will advise you there are two drop boxes there. One is for the Board of Elections and the other is for real estate taxes. So just be sure you put this information into the drop box for the Board of Elections, okay? And if you have moved maybe since the last time you voted, even if it's just across the hall or to a new apartment, you need to update your registration. And you can do that at the same website, as I mentioned, voteohio.gov. You can just indicate on there why you are submitting this, because you've had a change of address, or who knows, maybe a change of name. Could be another reason to update it. So you go through the same procedure, carefully completing it and then submitting it to the Board of Elections, either by mail or in their drop box. The next thing that's kind of important is where do I get information on candidates? How do I know which candidate I want to support? Well, as I mentioned earlier, voting is a privilege, but it's important that we know who we are voting for or what issue we want to support. And I understand that in another one of these, Your Voice Counts, maybe it's a different name, but I believe there are going to be some of the candidates who are up for election that you are going to meet, and they will introduce themselves to you, if I understand it correctly, and then there will be a chance for you to ask them questions. So I think that's another good way for you to get some information, excellent way to get information on the candidates. Another way, if you're comfortable, it looks like you are on a computer, you can go to a site that the League of Women Voters has put on the web, and it's called vote411.org. And they have information on all the candidates. All the local candidates have been interviewed by League of Women Voter members, and their responses to the questions are on that vote411.org. And the National League of Women Voters also has information on all the national candidates. So we hear a lot about all of the president and the vice presidential elections and some of the senators and representatives, but we don't always hear about our local candidates. And there is an election this year for one of the commissioners of the Wood County, and they are involved with your organization. So it's good for you to know the positions of the people who are vying for that office. So at vote411.org, you could find some information on them. Okay. Let me see what else. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is you have different, this year especially, you have several different choices of how you cast your ballot. I'm sure most of you have heard about the absentee ballot. How many of you have heard about the absentee ballot? Great, great. Well, that is something that you may have received, as I mentioned earlier, from the Secretary of State, is the application for an absentee ballot. It's not the ballot itself, it's just the application. And if you want to vote by absentee ballot, and you have to decide that, because once you get an absentee ballot, that is your ballot. And if you change your mind and want to vote in person, then that makes that the in-person vote what they call provisional. And so if you want to vote in person, then don't apply for an absentee ballot. But in many cases, an absentee ballot is great. First of all, you get to look at it and see all of the candidates who you're supposed to be voting on. So it gives you a good idea of what all will be on the ballots, not just the president and vice president. It's senators, representatives, and as I mentioned, a member of the Wood County Board of Commissioners. So with that ballot, once you have it, you can really look at it and decide what you want to do. And I think it's very interesting that there are several states in the United States that have only mail-in ballots, and the ballots are sent to all the registered voters. And they find that there's a much higher participation of voters because of that system. So it does make it easier for you, and at your own ease, you can complete that ballot. Once you have submitted your application for a ballot, you can do that starting now if you want to. And the ballots will be sent out about after October 6th, when registration is closed. And I didn't mention that. And in case you do need to register again or renew it, the deadline is October 5th, which is a Monday. So keep that in mind if that's something you think you need to do. Okay. So again, after you submit your application for a ballot, absentee ballot, you will receive it. And it would be important for you to look at it right away, review it, talk to people who you trust and for information on it, and make your own decision of who it is you want to vote for on that ballot. But do it as soon as you can, because especially if you mail it, we have some concerns that the mail won't be as efficient as it has been in the past. But your other alternative besides mailing it is, again, where do you take it? To the Board of Elections and their drop box. And where is that? The Wood County Courthouse, right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I can see some lips moving. I can read lips, so I'm glad you're participating with it. So it's a very good way to do it if you want that ease of having the ballot in your hands to complete at home and then either mail in or take to the Board of Elections. Another way is if you say, no, I want to be there myself, I want to vote. Well, then what I suggest you do is, again, at that voteohio.gov, look at your sample ballot, and you can get the ballot that is specific to you, where you live, and what candidates and what elections you have the right to vote in. So once you have that sample ballot, it's just like if you had gotten the mail-in ballot. You can look it over and review it and decide who you want to vote to and mark it. And then you can go either early voting, which starts October 6th at the Wood County Courthouse in the atrium. How many of you have been in that huge atrium inside the courthouse? Great. Yes, it's a beautiful spot. And they're doing that so that we can maintain social distancing. And of course, what do you all have to wear when you go out in public?
Mask.
A mask, right. So all of those safety things will be in place when you go in person to vote, either at the Wood County Courthouse or if you wait till election day. But again, if you have that sample ballot, be sure to take it with you so you don't have to say, oh, now who was it I wanted to vote for on this particular candidate? So it really is a big help to have that sample ballot ready for you just to mark the real ballot and be on your way and feel that you have done your job as a citizen and reviewed all the people you need to consider for election. So, and finally, and one other thing I'd like to say about either when you have to put in a new application for voter registration, whether you put in an application for an absentee ballot, or if you actually vote an absentee ballot, what happened to it? You said, where is my ballot? Where is my application? Well, again, if you go to voteohio.gov, there is a place for you to track your ballot. So again, you put in your name and your information that they ask for, and it's voteohio.gov/track, TRACK, and you will know exactly the status of your ballot. And it gives you a feeling of comfort to know that, yes, your ballot has been received by the Board of Elections and it will be counted. By the way, all absentee ballots that are received timely, that is, by the, November 2nd, or that you vote in person, will be included in the count on election day. So if you get that in time, your vote will be included in the count. So you can be comfortable with that. Right. Okay, Melissa. Okay, the last way, and the way many of you may prefer, is to actually go to the poll that you're to vote at on Tuesday, November 3rd, election day. Now, if you want to do that, that's fine. You just have to be sure you have a photo ID that you present to them. And again, have that ballot, sample ballot that you completed with you, so that you, when you go into the polling place, you're comfortable that you know who you want to vote for. And again, if you feel you want any assistance at all while you're there, just tell the poll workers that, yes, you want someone to help you to make sure that you are, filling out this electronic ballot correctly. And then a member of each of the major parties, one Republican and one Democrat, who are poll workers, will help you there. They will not tell you who to vote for at all, but they will just tell you how exactly you would mark it. Mark your ballot and enter that vote. So again, that's a good way to do it if that's what you want. Many people, especially seniors, really are familiar with going to the polls, and yeah, even though there's some concern about the polls with COVID-19, they still want to go to the polls on election day. But if you follow that my voting plan that I think Emily is going to provide for all of you, and you follow it and you get the information on the candidates and everything, you're going to be so well prepared to participate in this election. And we're so glad that you are doing it. It's so important for all our eligible citizens to be there to vote. Now, if you have any questions, I would try to answer them if we have time. Emily?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So probably, I think the easiest way is to have maybe a show of hands. If somebody has a question, you could raise your hand and then we'll call on you.
I just got one.
All right, I see Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
When did you say the early voting was going to start?
It starts Tuesday, October 6th. That's
Okay.
the first. It might be a little busy on Tuesday. You might want to wait a couple of days, but that's when it starts. And the last day is 2 o'clock on Monday, the 2nd of November. So
Okay.
hopefully you'll have plenty of time between there. And actually, the I'm glad you asked that, Kim. At the Board of Elections, voting in person, it starts at 8 o'clock every weekday morning and goes at least to 5. As it gets closer to the election, it goes a little bit later. It's also open on the last 2 Saturdays and Sundays before the election, if that's the day that you want to vote. The
Okay,
hours are not as long, but that's when it starts and that's when it ends. So thank you for asking, Kim.
thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Where do you go vote at?
Good question. That's a good question.
Yes. You either go to the Wood County Courthouse or at your polling place. And if you don't know where your polling place, again, you can find that at voteohio.gov. You just put in your name and your information that it requests at that site, and it will tell you where your polling place is. In
Okay.
most cases, there's not been a change. If you have voted in the past, it most likely will be at the same place. But to verify, do that at voteohio.gov. And I'm sure your staff members can help you with that if need be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Joan, some of our audience members may live in Perrysburg or live in other communities besides Bowling Green.
Hmm.
So maybe you can describe to them how can they find out where they vote in their town?
Well, if it's in Wood County, it would be at the Wood County Board of Elections. And you can just put in the search Wood County Board of Elections. There is a specific address, which I think Emily will have available for you too. But also you can find it at voteohio.gov. Again, you just put in your name and address and it will tell you where you would vote. And especially if you don't live in Wood County, you definitely want to go to voteohio.gov because it's the whole state.
Well, I mean, everybody here lives in Wood County, but their precinct in their town, they'll need to know the location they go to
Exactly.
if they vote on the day of, right? That's what
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
The only polling place that I know for sure is changed is Otterbein Senior Citizens Living Center will not be a polling place this year, where it has been in the past. And I'm afraid I cannot tell you the alternate if you are in Pemberville. But again, if you go to voteohio.gov, it will tell you where you vote. That's almost the first thing that comes up. I have checked my registration several times. I'm just to be sure I'm not missing anything that they have available at the website. And as soon as you put that information in, it tells you the polling place that you should go to. And it also tells you what elections throughout all elections over the years that you are entitled to vote in. Hi there. Another question I see. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chris.
I want to vote at home.
Okay, that's excellent. That's a good way to do it. So again, what you have to do first is submit that application for an absentee ballot, send that in, and then early in October, the second week in October, you should receive your absentee ballot, and then mark it at your ease whenever you want to do it, and you've done the research of who you want to vote for. Complete the ballot, and you can mail it in. There is an envelope that you mail it in, and I must say that if you are mailing it in, be very careful on how you complete that envelope, because that is the only way that the Board of Elections can verify that it is your ballot. So be sure that you have your name correct, and unfortunately, I have not yet seen the envelope, but I know at least your name is on there. I don't know about your address, but and your signature. Try to make your signature as standard as on the same as on your registration form, which over the years our signatures change, but it's very important that you try to have the same signature. And by the way, when you send in that absentee ballot application, if I haven't mentioned it before, on that application, they ask for your contact information, both your phone number and your email address. And that's in case there is something on the application that isn't complete or they have a question about, they can contact.
Yeah.
Good. And then you can correct it and, so you will get your ballot. So it's important to, I know sometimes we're reluctant to give out that contact information, but in this case, I think it's very a positive thing to do.
What time do we know who won the vote?
I'm sorry?
What time in November? What time we know who won the vote in November? What day we might know who won?
Emily, I'm
So-
not quite understand the
Yeah,
question.
okay, so I think he's asking what time are you allowed to vote in November?
No,
November.
you might know who won a vote. He might win the vote.
Oh, who won the vote? Okay. Well, that's going to be interesting because the level of absentee ballots and every state in the union has its own system of voting. And so some of them count the votes differently. So there will be a tally on election night, but because of the fact that there are going to be a lot of mail-in ballots that might have the right postmark, they might be timely submitted, but didn't reach the Board of Elections in time to be in the election night count. By the final count is generally 11 days after November 3rd, which I think, if my math is right, about November 14th, the official count should be known. And there'd be a lot of people or a lot of organizations predicting who actually voted, but because there's just so much going on in this election that it might take it until the official vote is counted.
Yeah, we need a new president. We need a new president for the White House. Somebody is not good president. He don't know. He's wants our time. He wants our time.
Oh, all right, hey, Chris. Okay, Chris, we're going to ask everybody. Everybody's got their favorite candidates, but for this evening, we're just going to hear general information. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you. So now I want to make sure that everybody who's here and you can tell your friends who are not here too. If you have any questions or you know of anybody who still needs more information about voting, everyone is happy to help you. So that'd be myself, that would be Hillary, that'd be Molly, Brent, anybody, your SSA, anybody at the Wood County Board of DD would be happy to help. That's one resource for you. So is the Board of Elections. They are an excellent resource. And Joan's organization, the League of Women Voters. All of those groups and people will be happy to help, okay? So we don't want anybody to feel like you don't know how to do it because we're gonna be there to help you make sure you can vote, okay? All right.
And Emily has all that contact information on that My Voting Plan. So I think you'll have it really available to you also.
Yeah, and we'll share more information about the voting plan. And I want to make sure that we've got enough time for our second half of our show. But again, just remind everybody, if you still have a question about voting, please be sure to ask us, okay? But for now, we want to give a big thank you to Joan for your presentation. And thank you for being here tonight. Yeah.
Thank you for your attention.
Good
And
job.
I'm so glad you're interested in voting. It's a wonderful, wonderful. Congratulations.
You're welcome.
All right. So go ahead, Mike.
Okay, this part is completing the US Census. Welcome to Rose Simmons.
Very good.
Thank you.
So if I am going to make Rose a presenter. Give me just a second here. I'm going to pull up her PowerPoint.
How do I mute myself? How do I mute myself?
Oh, I can do that, Joan.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
help you. All right.
Well, it's only polite.
Okay, thank you so much. If you could, let's see here if it'll let me advance.
Are you okay there, Rose?
Won't let me advance the slide.
Okay, let me just I will check one more time here. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. Now let's see how that goes.
Let's see if
Does that
this
work?
will. No, I think I have to share my screen. Let's see if it'll work.
Oh yeah, okay.
Can you
There
see
we
my
go.
screen now? All right, thank you so much.
There we go.
Okay, my name is Rose Simmons and I'm with the US Census Bureau. And besides this being an election year, this is also a census population count year. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that, okay? So I know that we've been talking about voting, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the census and what we do, okay? So we're going to talk about the goal of the 2020 census, why we conducted the decennial census. Why do we do this count? We're going to talk about confidentiality, keeping your information private, the impact of census data, and how it helps your community. Our goal here at the census is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. And what do we mean by that? Of course, we don't want to overcount people. And what do we mean about in the right place? Well, depending upon where you live or your living situation, that determines where you're counted. Why do we do this population count? Because it's in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution mandates, that means requires, that we conduct an enumeration, which is a count, of all the people residing in the United States every 10 years. We do that count in the 0 year. So 2020 ends in 0, we're conducting the count. So as an educator, I always have to throw in a little bit of history here. So our first census was conducted in 1790 under the direction of the then Secretary of State, who at that time was Thomas Jefferson. At that time, people rode on horseback, and it was federal marshals, and they knocked on doors and conducted the count. Well, let's fast forward to 2020. No longer are we riding on horseback and knocking on doors to conduct the count. You can do it right there at home on your computer. This is the first census where there will be an online, where we have an online self-response. Pretty easy, right? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see. So let's discuss the 4 primary uses of census data. The first is apportionment, and I'm going to explain what all these are. Redistricting, funding, and planning. 4 very important things. Let's discuss apportionment first. So, apportionment, there are 435 seats in Congress, okay? And each state gets 1. After you remove those 50, the remaining seats are allocated. They're determined based upon the population, being the greater the population, the greater the representation. So when you have a large state, like let's see over here in California, they're going to get more representatives, or in Texas. If you have a smaller state, like North Dakota, South Dakota, they get the 1 that goes in the first round, okay? If you look at this map shows the results after the 2010 census. In the 2010 census, the state of Ohio, where you all reside, lost 2 seats due to the population. Now, would people leaving Ohio? No, that wasn't the case. But people were moving to other areas, and the growth in terms of births were higher in other states. So Ohio got lost 2 seats. We went from 18 to 16. What is redistricting? So redistricting is after we do a count, where we count everybody in the U.S., we then give those results to the states, and the states take those results and they redraw boundaries. What kind of boundaries are we talking about? Congressional boundaries, state boundaries, legislative districts, school districts, voting precincts. They are all shifted to adapt to the population shift. Funding, here's the big one. So census data is used to allocate, to give out the money for more than $675 billion in federal funds annually. So I'm going to repeat that so you won't think I'm a little wacky or I might have had something extra in my coffee. More than $675 billion in federal funds are allocated each year based upon the population count. And that's why it's critically important that everyone participate in the census. We're talking about everything from public transportation, roads, preschool, Head Start, the federal school breakfast and lunch program, school nurses. Did you know that? Allocated based upon the population count. Healthcare services, services for women, infants and children. A lot of things are determined based upon the population count. Where urgent care centers are, lots. It's also used for planning. So any good system, whether it is a government, a company, they make decisions based upon data, information, and also planning. So whether that's the local government deciding where to put bus routes, whether it is real estate developers determining where they're going to build new homes, or businesses determining where to put a shopping center, they use census data to make those decisions. That's why it's so important to be counted. Now, we have, over the history of the census, always had groups that were what we call hard to count population groups. And when I go through these groups, you'll see similarities in why, each group would be in this population group, this hard to count group. Children under 5, age groups 18 to 24, your young people who are moving quickly and have lots to do in college, multiple jobs, veterans, immigrants, persons with disability, and seniors. So my group with the Census Bureau, I'm in the outreach department, and we work with folks, groups like Emily's group, to educate people why it's important. And that's why I'm here talking to you this tonight. The census has an impact on multiple things, but I'm going to focus on 2 areas tonight. I'm going to focus on the women because girl power, ladies. So let's talk about why the census matters to women. The census is, it determines the quality of census data determines the economic security of women. And it impacts so many programs that affect women. Child care assistance, Section 8 housing vouchers, children's health insurance program, the WIC program. I talked about women, infants, and children that provide supplemental nutrition for women with children. Title 10 planning grant, Head Start, SNAP. That is a supplemental program that provides nutrition assistance in funds to individuals who might need a little extra money in terms of food security, Medicaid. All of those programs, the funding for those programs are based upon the population count, which is determined by the census, the 2020 census or any subsequent census. Let's talk about the impact of census data on healthcare. So, an accurate count is critical to determining funding for healthcare. Right now, we're undergoing a pandemic. You hear, you guys talked about having to have a mask on when you're out in public. Information on the census determines the funding for research for the Center for Disease Control. It determines the money that's given to health, human services, and healthcare costs for utilization projects, research, Medicaid, Medicare Part B for our elderly parents. All of those programs are funded, the formula is used based upon the population count. That's why oftentimes I hear people say, what does it matter? I'm just one person, or why does it matter if I'm counted? The census is not important to me. And I always like to engage those folks that say those kinds of things to help them to understand that, well, okay, do you have elderly parents? Do you have a child that's in school? Do you live in a community? Do you care about your community? It's critically important. And it might not seem like it touches our everyday lives, but I can tell you from the moment you wake up until the minute that your head hits the pillow, I can find something throughout your day that is affected by the census count and why it's important for you to respond. Now, why might people not want to respond? Well, fear. Okay, you saw me talk about the different population groups, fear or lack of access to being able to respond, concerns about privacy. That is why we have Title 13 of the U.S. Code. This is a code that states that information can only be used in statistical format. What does that mean? That means that there are no identifiers. So the information that we use, it would say women ages 18 to 24. Okay, nothing that would identify you personally. And it cannot be used for anything else other than census-related data that is used to determine funding or used for statistical purposes in research. Census data is confidential. All of the information that is provided, every Census Bureau employee takes an oath from day one of employment, and they raise their right hand and say, I will not divulge any information that I come across in the course of my duties. And if I do, I am subject to a penalty of a fine of $250,000 or up to 5 years in prison. Now, let me tell you a little bit about me. I am a mother. I am a wife. I have 4 children, and some of those children are still in college, so mother can't do time. I take this very seriously, this oath extremely seriously. I try to, and myself and my colleagues, we want to ensure that your information is safe and we do not divulge it to anyone or we're subject to that penalty. There's no exceptions to this rule. We cannot share individual responses with immigration agencies like ICE. We can't share it with law enforcement agencies, nor can we allow it to be used to determine eligibility for government benefits. We will never, the 2020 census will never ask for your social security number, money or donations, anything on behalf of a political party, bank or credit card information, or your mother's maiden name. If anyone asks you for that type of information, know that it is not the census. So what are we doing about the 2020 census? We mentioned this pandemic. COVID-19 hit in March, and we were stopped dead in our tracks. In order to keep the public safe and our staff safe, we, like many other organizations, began working from home, working virtually. So that meant we had to change a lot of the dates that we had scheduled to conduct various operations. Well, we are now back, and we have several operations that we've completed up to this point, but we will be conducting our service-based enumeration, and that is where we go out and we count the homeless. We will be doing that September the 22nd through the 24th. We just finished our group quarters enumeration process. That's where we count people that live in dormitories, nursing homes, prisons, group homes. We also are working now under our deadline. That means September the 30th of 2020 at 11:59 is the last opportunity to respond to the census. So we want everyone to know that, and we want you to respond prior to September the 30th. We have different ways that you can respond. Now, I told you that this is the first census where you can respond online. You can go to my2020census.gov, and you can complete your census right there. Put in your address, and then fill out the information for yourself and everybody in your household. We encourage you to do that. You can respond by mail if you received a paper questionnaire. We are now mailing out questionnaires to all households that we have in our inventory that we know have not yet responded to the census. Or you can do it by phone. You can pick up the phone and dial 844-330-2020, and someone will take your census information, a census employee. Now, let's give you some up-to-date information. As of this morning, the national response rate was 65.5%, meaning 65.5% of the households in the U.S. have responded to the census. In the state of Ohio, it is 69.6%. So Ohio is doing a little bit better than the national average. Yoo-hoo! But look at Wood County. Wood County is at 72.8% as of this morning, which is fantastic. They have exceeded the 2010 self-response rate, which at that time was 72%. So you guys are doing great. We need you to respond. And I did not update this slide, so that is inaccurate. Today is September the 10th. There's 20 days left until September the 30th. The clock is ticking. There are no do-overs. Once this count is done, we live with those numbers for 10 years. So what can you do? You can help us through social media campaigns. If you have Facebook or if you have Instagram, people are on TikTok doing TikToks about the census, and it's really exciting. We're excited about it. It's important that everyone knows it is easy, it's important, it's safe to respond to the census. You have 3 different measures by which you can respond. Here's an example of some of the social media content. If you are part of Facebook, you could see this on one of many sites. A lot of our partners have been posting this, and this message is for folks that have young children to make them aware of it's important to count young children. This one is social media content for roads and highways, letting everyone know that we are impacted by the results for the next 10 years. We also have what we call mobile questionnaire assistance centers. And this is where we have activity in the community. We send census staff out with a tablet, and they actually assist people who have not yet responded to the census. So you could see this anywhere that you go throughout your daily lives. We have been at courthouses, we have been at unemployment centers, etc. I would like to encourage you to collaborate with us. How many of you have completed your census? Anybody here? 1, 2, 3. Okay, if you have not completed your census, know that you can have help. Emily and others can help you. You can call the number to complete it. You can also go online. If you feel that you need help to complete your census, please let us know. We can provide census staff, and you can also have friends like Emily help you to complete your census. Okay, I want to thank you guys for your time and attention. Thank you for inviting me. This is very exciting. The clock is ticking. We have 20 days left. If you have not completed your census, I challenge you to go online, to call, to contact your support system, and make sure that you complete the census. You can do it on a smartphone. You can do it on your iPad, on your laptop. Please complete the census. You count, so be counted.
Awesome. Very good. And hey, very nice, Rose. Thank you so much. If I could just add one little, from my personal experience, Rose described ways to complete the census. You can call that number. We'll have it available for you. And I will tell you, really honestly, it takes about 10 minutes. It's very simple questions, and it doesn't take very much time at all. So, we just know that. Just know we got to get it done. Know we're going to take 10 minutes or 15 minutes and we'll get it done. Yep. All right. So let me see what's in the chat here. Oh, okay. Yeah. A little message and thanks to our folks, to the presenters for sure. And Rose, I'm going to take, could you bring the screen back to me?
Sure.
All righty.
There you go.
All right, thank you so much. And then the remaining time today, unless I want to be sure that anybody has any questions for Rose, that they get a chance to ask them. Are there any questions?
Hey, Emily.
Oh, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm also trying to set up.
I have a comment for Rose. So Rose, I do this show in the community every Wednesday, and I advertise how important it is to get the US Census done. Me and Emily stress that out every Wednesday to our viewers.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
And I'll post it on social media as well.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. There's the website. So again, I'll say the same thing that we said about voting when Joan was presenting, just so that you know, if you need help getting the census completed, any one of us would be happy to help. Myself or Hillary or Molly or Brent or your SSA. And even if you know somebody who needs help, please just ask them to call us and we'll make sure that you get any assistance if you need it, okay? All right, so.
I think Chris had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, so how you done how you done on your phone you said before?
Okay, so on your phone, you just you would Google my2020census.gov, and it's going to bring up the app, and then you just hit start, and it will ask you for your address, and then it'll ask you questions like your name and the name of any other persons that reside at that address.
What about Graham? How you done that on your iPod? Graham done that you talk about Graham? How you done on your iPod?
On your iPad, same thing. So you can just Google my2020census.gov. It's going to pop up. It'll generate the application tool, and then you hit get started, and it will ask you for your address, and that will start you on the path. And it's really.
What about what is it you you didn't have on your phone? I think the Grand. What did you use it before? To I have Facebook, so I don't have Instagram on mine. How you download that?
So from Facebook, just put in your search box. In the search box of Facebook, put in my 2020 census, and it'll generate, because many partners have attached the link there.
What about Grand? You said it's a G. How you? What is it? It's a G. You Grand.
Not sure.
Okay, can you say that again, Chris?
You said to me how to look up on your phone. It's type in how you download it.
Yeah. Hey, you know what, Chris?
It's a G.
You know, I'll be able to answer your questions for you. Okay, can we talk tomorrow?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You can mention me tomorrow at 10.
I will be there. Yep, I'll be there, and we'll talk tomorrow. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we've got a few more things we need to talk about, and we're getting very close to the end of our session. Okay.
Just wait. Stop.
Whether you post it on whether you put the recorder everybody today, whether we get to hear our voice.
Let's
With the
plan,
recorder.
you and I can talk tomorrow, Chris, okay? Let's talk tomorrow, okay? All right. Now thank you very much. Let's take it back to Mike.
Yep. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, I got a question for Rose. Is when do you get those census, and what do you do when all the census is in?
Okay, so when we take the census, we're asking where were you living or staying as of April the 1st of 2020. So that's what you're answering. You should have received your census form already if you received it by mail. Not everybody got a questionnaire by mail, but if you have not responded, you are going to receive a questionnaire by mail if you receive mail at your home address. Okay, but you can go online, you can call in 1-844-330-2020, and you can respond to the census there by the telephone and just give them the information.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to stress that we're counting a household. So, but not not necessarily your family. So many of the people in our audience or friends that we have, we know they live in their own apartment. And so that's where they're going to count you. All right. They're not going to count you with your parents or anybody in your family. They're going to count you where you live. All right. That's why it's really important that each one of us, and I know Rose mentioned this earlier, but one thing we do know is that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are historically underrepresented in the results of the census. In other words, for whatever reason, we don't get responses. So that's why it's really important. We want to tell all of our friends and make sure that you take the time and make the effort to complete the census, okay? For all the important reasons Rose said. All right, go, Mike, can you tell us? Go ahead, Mike. We're going to move on. We've got a few more things we need to talk about, and then I want to be able to let people leave for the evening. We're getting very, very close.
Okay.
I think we may be going on time. Do you want me to talk about this slide, or do you want to talk about it?
I'll talk about it. Put the slide on.
Okay, go right ahead. Okay. The slide that's up there now?
No.
Okay, so People First, and Joan mentioned this earlier, that People First is going to offer what we call Meet the Candidate evenings or afternoons. And we have contacted every candidate in every contested election throughout all of Wood County, with the exception of the judges. But so as Joan was mentioning, the commissioners, the representatives, the sheriff, the senators, and we've asked each one of them to come and make a presentation at a People First meeting. And they're going to talk specifically about disability rights. So we're going to ask them all of them to answer the exact same questions. The first one's going to ask them to describe their job, what is their responsibilities, and how do they represent their constituents. That's you're the voters. And the second one is really important. We want to ask them, what do they believe about disability rights? Because that's what we advocate for sure. We want to hear from each of the candidates. All right. And Joan mentioned earlier my voting plan, and that's now posted on the Wood County Board of DD website. Right smack dab in the middle. And finally, go ahead, Mike. Going to bring us to a close tonight?
Sure. I'll say thank you for coming to our voice counts, our voting, and our wonderful census of 2020. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome, Mike.
All right. Everybody there?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for being here. And again, just to emphasize, if you have any questions or if there's anything we can do to help you with voting or doing the census, please let us know, okay? And
We
this
will.
little video is going to be up on our website too, so you can always go back and review it. You get to see yourself on camera too. That's always
I always
important,
do.
right?
I always
Yeah.
do.
Same
Okay.
here.
Same
All right.
here.
Way to go. Let's hear it for people first. Woo!
Yeah.
Woo! People first power.
Come on, Molly. Come on, Molly.
Is Teresa Gavarone gonna come on, Emily, and talk about how she's running?
You know what, Kim, we did send her an invitation. We just haven't heard from her yet. We're hoping she comes on.
I got connections. I'll tell her come on.
Who are
Okay.
you talking about, Kim?
Who are you talking about, Kim?
Teresa Gavarone, who I had on my show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We all know Teresa.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That'd be a good one, Kim. Sure.
I'll see. I'll see if I can reach out to her under Facebook.
Thank you,
Kim.
Kim.
All right.
Kim. What about Vince? Vince got on a show. Vince on your show.
Who?
Vince. Vince. From what?
Brent. I think he's saying Brent.
Oh, Brent
Oh,
was
Brent.
on my show. He was the first one ever on my show.
What about Molly?
Oh, we're gonna have to get Molly on, you guys.
Molly.
Me too.
Molly.
Molly.
These are the people that are on the show. So
I would love to. It would be my honor.
It's
These
gonna
are
go
people that are
100
on
weeks
the show,
if
so
all
they-
you guys
they're
want
gonna-
people on my show.
You can talk about me, Molly.
Yeah. I can
We
talk
can
about
get
the
Julie
picture
back
I
on
found
in my
here.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can do your stuff, Kim.
I do my stuff every Wednesday night.
You miss it. You miss it, Mike. It's very good.
Yes,
You
it
miss it,
is.
She didn't interview herself.
Hey, Molly, miss it, Molly, miss
Oh,
it too, Molly,
okay,
miss
you're
it too,
saying
Molly.
Emily should interview me? I'll have to see if I can do that.
Emily.
Yes.
Sorry, Emily. Everybody that's on the screen right now. Everyone that's on the screen right now. All the people that have been to Kim's shows before.
That's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So here, Kim, here's an idea. You could say,
What?
hi, my name's Kim Patterson. Well, hi, Kim. What is your favorite thing to do in your spare time?
Well, here's an idea when you run out of guests.
And they can interview yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, you could.
Crazy.
Nah, we'll have plenty of guests. We got a lot of people.
Crazy.
Yeah,
This is
Molly's
the
crazy.
best part. And my shows are keep everybody is still on it then.
All right, guys. Thank you all for being here.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.
Great job. Great
Thank
job,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Emily.
Bye-bye, Christy.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye,
Kim.
Dennis. Bye,
Bye,
Kim.
Dennis.